They said I was too old to fight back, but they forgot who raised them. Hey everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Pamela. I'm 67 years old. And today I'm going to tell you a story that'll make you think twice about underestimating someone, just because they've got a few gray hairs and some wrinkles. Before we dive in, please hit that like button, it really helps the channel grow. And subscribe if you haven't already. I post real-life stories every week and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Also, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Are you in Texas like me? New York? Maybe somewhere across the ocean? I love hearing from all of you. Alright, let's get into it. I never thought I'd be the kind of mother who'd get a text message that would shatter her heart into a million pieces. But there I was standing in my kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon, staring at my phone screen like it was some kind of foreign object I'd never seen before. The message was from my son, Derek. Just 4 words that felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Don't call or come over. No explanation. No context. Just a cold, hard boundary thrown up between us like I was some kind of stranger who'd wronged him somehow. My hands were shaking as I read it over and over again, hoping maybe I'd misunderstood, hoping there was some autocorrect error that would make it say something different. But no. Those words just sat there on my screen, blinking at me with all the warmth of a January frost. Now let me give you some background here because this didn't come out of nowhere, or at least that's what I kept telling myself as I tried to make sense of it all. Derek is my only child. His father, my late husband Robert, passed away 8 years ago from a sudden heart attack, and after that it had just been Derek and me figuring out life together. I'd always been there for him. Always. When he wanted to go to that expensive college out of state, I took out a second mortgage on my house. When he married Jessica, a woman I had reservations about from day one, but I kept my mouth shut because I wanted him to be happy, I paid for half their wedding. $35,000 if you can believe it. When they bought their first house, guess who gave them the down payment? This old lady right here. $20,000 from my retirement savings because Derek said they were just a little short and it would mean the world to them. I'm not saying this to brag or to make myself sound like some kind of saint. I'm saying it because I want you to understand that I loved my son with everything I had. He was my whole world after Robert died. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I loved him too much, gave him too much, made things too easy for him. But isn't that what mothers do? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Sacrifice, give love unconditionally? I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a good mother. So when I got that text, my first instinct was to call him immediately. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the way those words were so cold and final. Instead, I texted back just 2 words, got it. And then I did something that would change everything. I sat down at my kitchen table, poured myself a glass of wine even though it was only 3 in the afternoon, and I started thinking, really thinking, about all the times over the past few years when I'd felt pushed aside, all the canceled Sunday dinners, all the times Jessica would make little comments about how I was too involved, or how they needed space to grow as a couple. All the times Derek would promise to come help me with something around the house and then cancel at the last minute. I'd been making excuses for them. They're busy. They're building their life. They're young and need their independence. But sitting there with that text message burning a hole in my phone, I realized something. I'd been a convenience to them. A bank account. A babysitter when they occasionally needed one for their dog. A safety net. But not a person worthy of respect or basic human decency. And that text, that cold, dismissive text, that was the final straw. So I made a decision. If my son wanted me out of his life, I'd give him exactly what he asked for. But I wasn't going to just fade away quietly like some forgotten piece of furniture. No, I was going to show Derek and that manipulative wife of his exactly what they were losing. I was going to take back my power, my dignity, and my life. And let me tell you, what happened next was something I never could have imagined. The first thing I did was call my lawyer, Martin Henderson, a man I'd known for 20 years and who'd handled Robert's estate. Martin, I said, I need to talk to you about some financial matters. We met the next day, and I laid it all out for him. The mortgage I'd taken out to pay for Derek's education, I was still paying on that, by the way, with 3 years left to go. The money I'd given them for their wedding. The down payment on their house. I want to know my options, I told him. I want to know if there's anything I can do to protect myself and my assets going forward. Martin looked at me over his reading glasses with a mixture of surprise and something that might have been admiration. Pamela, he said, you can't get back money you've given as gifts. But you absolutely can make sure you don't give away anymore. And there are some other things we can do to secure your future. We spent 2 hours going over my finances, and what I learned shocked me. I'd been so generous, so free with my money when it came to Derek, that I'd actually put my own retirement at risk. I had maybe enough to live on if I was careful, but one major medical emergency or housing repair could wipe me out. And here I'd been, planning to leave everything to Derek in my will, assuming he'd take care of me if I ever needed it. How foolish that seemed now. I want to change my will, I told Martin. I want to set up a trust that goes to charities, organizations that help elderly people who've been abandoned by their families, women's shelters, literacy programs, anything but Derek. Martin nodded and made notes. And there's one more thing, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing. That second mortgage I took out for his college? I've been paying it faithfully every month. But it's my house, my mortgage, my responsibility. I want to make sure that if anything happens to me, that debt doesn't disappear. I want it documented exactly why I took out that loan and what it was for. Now, here's where things get interesting. About a week after I'd sent that simple got it text, Jessica, my daughter-in-law, texted me. Not Derek, mind you. Jessica. The message said, Hi Pamela, just wanted to check in. We know you must be confused by Derek's text, but we really need our space right now. We're going through some things and focusing on us. Hope you understand. Maybe we can reconnect in a few months. I stared at that message for a long time. The audacity of it. The sheer nerve. Going through some things like I was some kind of toxic presence they needed to cleanse from their lives. Maybe reconnect in a few months. Like I was a casual acquaintance, not the woman who'd given birth to Derek, not the woman who'd emptied her savings account so they could play house in their precious suburban paradise. I didn't respond to Jessica's text. I didn't respond to anything. I went dark, as they say. But I wasn't sitting around crying into my wine glass, I'll tell you that much. I was busy. I joined a local seniors hiking group and discovered that at 67, I could still climb a mountain literally. I started taking watercolor painting classes at the community center and found out I had a real talent for it. I volunteered at a literacy center, teaching adults how to read, and the gratitude in their eyes filled a hole in my heart I didn't even know was there. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected because I'd been so focused on being available for Derek. I went on a cruise to Alaska with my friend Margaret, something I'd always wanted to do but had put off because I was saving money. Saving it for what? For people who couldn't even be bothered to explain why they were cutting me out of their lives? And here's the thing that surprised me most. I was happy. Genuinely deeply happy in a way I hadn't been in years. I wasn't constantly checking my phone, hoping Derek would call. I wasn't rearranging my schedule in case they needed something. I wasn't walking on eggshells around Jessica, trying to avoid saying anything that might be construed as interference. I was free. And freedom, it turns out, looks pretty good on a 67-year-old woman. 3 months went by. Then 4. I heard nothing from Derek or Jessica, and I didn't reach out. But I knew through the grapevine, small town, you know how it is, that they were wondering why I hadn't tried to contact them. Jessica's mother, Carol, who I'd always been cordial with, ran into me at the grocery store and made a point of telling me that Jessica was concerned that I seemed to be taking the separation so well. I just smiled and said, well, they asked for space and I'm respecting that. I'm just living my life. The look on Carol's face was priceless. I could tell she'd expected me to be devastated, to be begging for reconciliation. Instead, here I was, tan from my Alaska cruise, wearing a new outfit I'd bought myself, and talking about my upcoming art show at the community center. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was Derek and his voice sounded different. Strained. Mom, he said, the first time I'd heard his voice in 4 months, we need to talk. My heart did this little jump, that old maternal instinct kicking in, but I kept my voice level. Hello, Derek. What can I do for you? There was a pause and I could hear him breathing. Can I come over? We really need to talk in person. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to say yes, to throw open my door and my arms and welcome him back. But I'd learned something in those 4 months. I'd learned that I deserved better than scraps of attention thrown my way when it was convenient. I'm actually pretty busy these days, I said. How about we meet for coffee? There's a nice place downtown. Thursday at 2? Another pause. Thursday. That's 3 days away. This is kind of important, Mom. I almost caved. Almost. Thursday works for me, Derek. Let me know if that suits your schedule. We met at the coffee shop, and I barely recognized my own son. He looked tired, older somehow, like he'd aged years in those few months. We sat down with our drinks, and there was this awkward silence that felt like a chasm between us. Finally, he spoke. Mom, I owe you an apology. I waited. That text I sent, the way I just cut you off. It wasn't right. Jessica thought. We thought. He trailed off, and I could see him struggling to find the words. What did you think, Derek? I asked, keeping my voice gentle but firm. He sighed. Jessica felt like you were too involved in our lives. She thought we needed to establish boundaries. And I went along with it. I should have talked to you. Should have explained. The text was cruel, and I'm sorry. I took a sip of my coffee, letting his words sit in the air between us. I appreciate the apology, I finally said. But I have to tell you, Derek, these past 4 months have been eye-opening for me. He looked confused. What do you mean? I leaned forward. I mean that for years I've defined myself by being your mother. By being available, by giving, by sacrificing. And when you pushed me away, it hurt. It hurt more than I can even express. But it also freed me to remember who Pamela is, not just who Derek's mother is. And I've discovered that I like who I am. I like my life. I'm happy. Derek's face went through several emotions, confusion, hurt, and then something that looked like panic. Mom, I don't want you out of my life. I made a mistake. Jessica and we've been having some problems, and she was blaming a lot of it on outside influences, and I stupidly let her convince me that you were one of them. But I miss you. I miss having you in my life. I reached across the table and took his hand. Derek, I love you. I will always love you. You're my son. But I need you to understand something. The relationship we had before, where I gave and you took, and then you discarded me when it was convenient, that relationship is over. If we're going to rebuild something, it has to be different. It has to be based on mutual respect. Of course, he said quickly. Absolutely. I respect you, Mom. I do. I shook my head. Respect isn't just words, Derek. It's actions. Let me ask you something. Did you know that I took out a second mortgage to pay for your college? That I'm still paying on it? That it'll take me 3 more years to pay it off, and it's eating into my retirement savings? He looked shocked. I didn't know it was a mortgage. I thought you just had the money. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Derek, I'm a widow living on a fixed income. I've never just had money. Everything I gave you, I gave at a cost to myself. And I did it gladly because I love you. But you and Jessica never once asked me if I could afford it. You just assumed. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I held up my hand. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you this because if we're going to have a relationship going forward, it has to be based on honesty and awareness. I've made changes to my will, Derek. I've set up a trust that will go to charities when I pass away. You won't be inheriting my house or whatever money I have left. And before you say anything, I want you to know that this isn't punishment. This is me taking care of myself and making sure that my legacy goes to people who truly need it. The color drained from Derek's face. You cut me out of your will? I could see it then, the real reason for this meeting, for this sudden apology. Did you know I was changing my will? I asked quietly. He had the grace to look embarrassed. Jessica's mom mentioned running into you. She said you seemed different, that you were traveling and taking art classes. Jessica got worried that maybe you were spending your money on yourself instead of. He trailed off, realizing how that sounded. Instead of saving it for you? I finished. Derek, it's my money. I earned it. Robert and I worked hard for everything we had. And yes, I'm spending it on myself now. On my life. On experiences and joy and things that make me happy. I know Mom, Jessica is pregnant. We're having a baby. And there it was. The real reason. The hook they thought would reel me back in. I felt my heart squeeze, a grandchild, something I'd dreamed about for years. But I kept my expression neutral. Congratulations, I said. That's wonderful news. Derek looked confused by my lack of enthusiasm. We were hoping. We thought you'd want to be involved. As a grandmother. We're going to need help, and Jessica's mom works full-time, so we thought. I held up my hand again. Stop right there, Derek. Let me make something very clear. I would love to know my grandchild. I would love to be a grandmother. But I will not be a built-in babysitter. I will not be a bank account. I will not be taken for granted. If you want me in this child's life, then you need to treat me with respect and consideration. That means including me because you value me, not because you need something from me. We talked for another hour, and I laid out exactly what I expected. Regular communication, not just when they needed something. Respect for my time and my boundaries. No assumptions about financial help. If they needed money, they could ask like adults, and I would decide based on my own financial situation. And most importantly, an acknowledgement that what they did, that text message and the months of silence, was cruel and unacceptable. Derek agreed to everything, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was used to me being the soft, giving mother who always put him first. This new Pamela, the one who had standards and expectations, was unfamiliar territory. I need to talk to Jessica about all this, he finally said. She's not going to like some of it. I gathered my purse and stood up. Derek, I'm not asking for Jessica's approval. I'm telling you what I need to have a healthy relationship with you and your family. If Jessica can't accept that, then maybe we don't have a relationship. And that will be sad, but I'll be okay. I've learned that I can be okay on my own. I left him sitting there, and I won't lie, I cried on the way home. Because this was hard. Because loving your child and setting boundaries with them is one of the most painful things a parent can do. But I knew I was doing the right thing. A week went by with no contact. Then 2 weeks. I went about my life, painting, hiking, volunteering, spending time with friends. And then I got a text from Jessica. Pamela, can we meet? Just us? I think we need to talk. I was surprised but agreed. We met at a different coffee shop, and Jessica was already there when I arrived, her hand resting on her still flat belly. She looked nervous. Thank you for meeting me, she said as I sat down. I wasn't sure you would. I ordered a tea and settled back in my chair. What did you want to talk about, Jessica? She took a deep breath. Derek told me about your conversation, about everything you said. And I need to be honest with you. I was the one who pushed for the separation. I was the one who told Derek to send that text. I felt like you were too involved, like you were always there, always helping, and it made me feel inadequate, I guess. Like I wasn't enough. Like Derek would always choose you over me. I listened, really listened, and for the first time I saw Jessica not as the manipulative daughter-in-law, but as a young woman who was insecure and struggling. Jessica, I said gently, I never wanted to make you feel that way. But you need to understand that cutting me out wasn't the answer. You could have talked to me. We could have worked something out together like adults. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. I know that now. These past months, watching Derek miss you. Realizing that we're about to have a baby, and I pushed away someone who actually wanted to help and support us. I've been an idiot. She wiped at her eyes. My own mother is great, but she's always been kind of cold and distant. She's excited about the baby, but she's already made it clear she won't be babysitting or changing diapers. And then there's you, who would have done anything for us, and I pushed you away because of my own stupid insecurity. I reached across the table and took her hand. Jessica, I appreciate your honesty. I really do. And I'm willing to start over, to build a relationship with you based on mutual respect. But you hurt me. That text, that dismissal, it broke something in me. I'm healing, but the scar is still there. If we're going to move forward, I need to know that you see me as a person, not just as Derek's mother or as a potential babysitter for your child. I need to know that you value me. She squeezed my hand. I do. I swear I do. And I'm so sorry for everything. Over the next few months, we rebuilt our relationship slowly, carefully. Derek and Jessica came to my art show at the community center and seemed genuinely impressed by my paintings. They invited me to Sunday dinner at their place, and I went, but I also had other plans on other Sundays because my life didn't revolve around them anymore. When they asked me to go with them to shop for baby furniture, I went because I wanted to, not because I felt obligated. And when Jessica's baby shower came around, I contributed what I could afford, not what they expected or hoped for. The baby, my grandson Thomas, was born on a crisp October morning, and when I held him for the first time, I felt all that old love come rushing back. But it was different now. It was tempered with wisdom and self-respect. I loved this child fiercely, but I also loved myself enough not to lose myself in him. I volunteered to babysit once a week on Thursdays because that worked with my schedule. When they asked for more, I kindly but firmly said no. I had my painting class on Tuesdays, my hiking group on Saturdays, my volunteer work on Mondays. My life was full and rich, and I wouldn't give that up, not even for my grandson. And here's the beautiful thing that happened. Derek and Jessica started to respect me more, not less. They saw that I had value beyond what I could do for them. They started asking about my art, my friends, my adventures. They started treating me like a whole person with my own interests in life. Our relationship became healthier, more balanced. They weren't perfect. There were still moments when they fell back into old patterns of assumption and entitlement, but when that happened, I gently but firmly reminded them of our boundaries, and they adjust. So that's my story. The story of how a devastating text message became the wake-up call I didn't know I needed. The story of how being pushed away gave me the space to find myself again. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy or that there weren't moments of deep pain and sadness, but I'm standing here today as a stronger, happier, more complete person than I was before. I've learned that self-respect isn't selfish, that setting boundaries isn't cruel, that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. And I've learned that it's never too late to reclaim your life, your power, and your joy. Before we wrap up, I want to thank you all for watching and for letting me share my story. If you found this helpful, if it resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already because I've got more stories to share. And I think you'll find them worth your time. And please drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to set boundaries with family? How did it go? What advice would you give to someone struggling with this? I read every comment, and I love hearing from you. Also, let me know where you're watching from. I always get such a kick out of seeing how far these stories travel. Remember, you are never too old to stand up for yourself. You are never too old to start over. You are never too old to choose yourself. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next video.